Hey James, in that last tutorial I showed you how to take the Photoshop and clean it up in Photoshop and then drop it into Illustrator and do live trace. I realized that you could also do this just strictly in Photoshop, and I'm not sure what you're more comfortable with. I think it's Photoshop, so I wanted to show you how you could use Photoshop, just Photoshop, to clean this up and start to manipulate this as well. And so the first, the first thing you really need to do is make sure that when you do your sketches and you're going to scan these in to be used in Photoshop, that your lines are clean. And so if you zoom in, you can see that like right down here by the E, things get lighter, and right through here in the A, things get lighter. So it'll serve you well if you're really going to start doing more sketching and dropping them into the software, to make sure your lines are dark and as clean as you can get them, so that when we start using it in Photoshop, it's not as much cleanup. We don't have to do as much cleanup work because the scan's nice and clean and all the dark stayed. Right now, in my background, in my layers, I have a background layer with your image. I'm going to double click that and give it a new name. I'm going to go back to image adjustments in the top menu, and I'm going to go to levels, and I'm going to play with the levels again. And this time I'm going to try and make things dark, like not quite as bright, because we're not going into Illustrator. We're just going to go into Photoshop and try to isolate your type and your object. So I feel pretty good about that. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my selection tool. I'll just start with I'll just start with the magic wand, and you can see it's picking up all that noise, right? There's all these different tones that it's not quite picking up. So instead, I'm going to go to top menu, select color range, and I'm going to select the white. And you can see that it's pretty much selected all of the white areas. We're going to zoom in. So there's going to be some cleaning up to do, but let's just start with this and see what happens when I hit delete. I'm getting rid of the background information. Right? You see the checkerboard, so all our white areas are gone, and now we just have your outlined objects. So I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to start filling in your letters with color. So I go back to the original layer with your objects. Sorry, I'm going to pull my layers palette up in here. Back to the original layer. I've got my magic wand. I'm going to click inside. You can see that there's still some information in there. So maybe instead of magic wand, I'll use the quick selection tool and see if that will be more productive. Not really. What happens if I just take my paint can and I click inside this bad boy? Let's see what happens. Yeah, you can see that. Whoops. There's still information. So let's do this. Let's go back to our select tool, color range, and this time let's find the black. And let's pick up as much black as we can. Alright, you see that? They did a pretty good job of finding the black. And if we hit select inverse and we delete, it got rid of all that stuff. It should have gotten rid of all that stuff. Oops. Sorry. So now let's try and select the inside of these objects. Again, I'm going to go inside of G. There we go. See how much cleaner that is? E, A, R, B, X. Alright, and with my new layer, I'm going to pick a different color. Let's go purple, pink. drop that new layer below the gearbox layer, and let's just see what happens when I fill this in. All right, there you've got your color. Well, the top of that X didn't fill in, so let's go back to that layer, and you're gonna have to go in and clean this up. But you get the point, right? You're supposed to go in, you clean things up, you get rid of the white. You're gonna have to zoom in. And since your color layer is actually behind the black, you can literally just paint. If you wanted to, you could just go in and paint all this noise. Cleaning things up with my paintbrush. We're getting it done. Not the fastest way to do it, but if you really want precision and control, it'll work. So, whoops. And then, you've got your, I don't recommend using too many layer styles, but if you go to layer menu at the top and go to layer style and you go to like inner shadow, you can start dropping in some effects. I don't want to make this look like crap, but you can see what I'm doing, right? You went to the layer style, and since it's on its own layer, you're not disrupting your original. I guess I goofed on that corner. I put that on the original layer. I'd have to go back and fix that. But by placing the color layers below your original typography, you have a lot more control, and you can test a lot more things to make that work. So really the key is, James, is to scan it in, make sure your lines are dark, get rid of the get rid of the white background by using your select color range option, and then either go in and paint in the negative areas that you want, or use the paint can. I mean, there's lots of different ways to do this, but once you have that in place, you're going to have a lot more control over the quality of your logo. Personally, I prefer the live trace solution because it gives more quality to the lines. You work in vector, and that's how you want to work in vector when you're working with identity and brands and logos. So, all right, well, that was my little 7-month-old telling me she's ready for her bottle. So I probably need to go. I hope this was helpful, and let me know if you have any questions or concerns, okay?